What's up, everybody? It's your boy Cappuccino and another great episode of Roger That Chronicles. Hey, listen, if you like what you see here today, do not be afraid to go to the old Google box, YouTube, 216 Creator Studios. Make sure you hit that like button, like, share, subscribe, ding that bell for the future notifications. This way you do not miss an episode. So it's been, I think, a little too long since we've had an episode, and Chris has been out there saving the world. Chris, it's great to see you again. And it looks like we have a familiar face at the table today. Why don't we go ahead and introduce him, Chris?
Hello. We've got Jason here, and he used to host the podcast.
It's good to be back. So thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So kind of
different side of the table now, huh?
It is, yeah. So now I'm gonna be all like, shy and starstruck because now I'm being interviewed versus me, either making fun of one of our co-hosts that we used to have. So there was no pressure whatsoever. So now I'm up in the hot seat now.
We can still make fun of them. They'll watch the show.
Yeah. I don't like making fun of people behind their back unless they know that I'm doing it, because I'd rather do it to their face instead. So
yeah, because you get to see their expression, right?
Absolutely.
I get it.
Yeah. So Rick, if you're out there, this one's for you.
Hey, I was going to keep his anonymity, but
no, I mean, I'm sure he watches. He should be a fan at this point.
He may be watching right now. Well, I don't think so. He just texted me a little bit ago. So
thanks for being a fan, Rick.
Yeah.
So listen, combat veteran, Jason, you have moved from 2 tours. Is that right?
Yeah, the 2 tours. I was with 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines Lima Company, Infantry Rifleman. 2 tours, first in Afghanistan, the second one in Iraq. So the first time in Afghanistan was 04 to 05.
Wow. And
then Iraq was 06. So, and we usually do 8-month stints.
Mm-hmm.
So, because, for what we do when it comes to the training and stuff, 8 months, go back, train up, 8 months again, because if you're going to be out in an environment, longer periods than that, you're going to start breaking your body down. So how are you going to be combat effective?
Right.
More isn't necessarily better.
True.
So, yeah, that's my motto now. When I work out, more isn't always better. You're tearing your body down more. So you want it not too much, not too little. That's my life mantra now. So,
well, I mean, listen, you look like you don't miss a day at the gym.
Well, thanks. I get a little critical on myself. So,
and for a guy who has Semper Fi barbecue, some of the best barbecue in the Midwest, number one. And hey, I don't know how you do it, man. You don't even put on a pound. Do you not eat your own barbecue?
I do, because I have to have quality control, but I'm very strategic. Best way to lose weight or maintain your weight is caloric deficit.
Wow.
So, and that's, if you want to lose weight, because I used to be, a certified personal trainer, not that I really did anything with it. I just did it for, for kicks. You just create let's say your caloric intake is, 2,000 for maintenance levels. You want to lose a little weight, drop about 300 of those calories, and then eventually over a period of time, you're going to start dropping the weight. And that's just your standard, way to do it, because everyone's body's different. Some may have endocrine issues and all that stuff. But I was telling one guy at the Guitar Center, he asked me so can I ask your opinion on how to lose weight? I'm like, number one, why is he asking me out of all people? And then my mom was like, because you look fit. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So
do you not own a mirror?
Yeah. So the awareness factor sometimes, because I get into these weird Seinfeld episode moments. And I Uber too. So just for, extra cash, guitar money and stuff. So I come across all sorts of walks of life, and I'm like, is this person nuts or what? But I'm like, whatever. But caloric deficit, that's the best way to do it. And then my buddy at Guitar Center came on to, he's like, I lost 15 pounds, but listen to your advice. I'm like, see? Quite simplistic. It's not about the most complicated thing, and that's how my life is. Just keep it as simple as you can, simple as you can, without overcomplicating everything. So
Nice. Wow, that's great. Great words of wisdom there.
Yeah. Well, it took me only like 40 years to figure that out.
As Chris is feeding you some kind of pound cake.
Yeah,
there, right?
right. Absolutely. But you see,
Sorry.
Deficit. I will only eat the allotted amount of calories, and then that's it.
Well, I
That's
did
my
have
secret.
it cut in half, so there's only half the calories anyway, right?
Yeah,
I found-
technically, I like how you
I
rationalize
found
it.
if you shake it enough and whatever comes off, those are calories.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
technically, yeah, you are right.
Right.
Yeah,
So what do you got for Jason today?
Well, we are New Life Ministry and Outreach, and NLM&O for short. And we just help equip and empower veterans as they're transitioning.
Nice.
So kind of on the podcast, we talk about, it's like our life in general is constantly transitioning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like to just start off with, why did you join the Marine Corps? And that was a huge transition, right?
I never had that question for you for an entire year or so.
No, not at all. Yeah, I mean, like I tell everybody, because I had a death wish at a young age, so I like to kind of shock them a little bit with that. Well, for me doing the Marine Corps thing, I during 9/11, I was in high school, so that was one of the driving forces of going into the Marine Corps.
Right.
And I didn't want I wasn't really thinking about college benefits or what can I get and this and that or whatever. I just wanted that title. I liked the stripped down approach, and they don't promise you anything. They're like, hey, if you want the title, you can have it. If not, then go F off, go somewhere else type of thing. And I'm like, well, that's real and honest. I don't like, flowery stuff or whatever, of course, be professional and stuff. But I just like the no nonsense approach, and that, it was the toughest boot camp in the country. And, I got the boot camp. It was a big culture shock. But, as soon as you get past that, there's going to be other more difficult moments in boot camp while you're in the fleet. So I was infantry. But not to get off too far off topic. But, yeah, I mean, I joined for the intangible reasons. Like, it was just a calling. I hate to sound cliche or whatever, because, like, I don't just wake up one day, I'm going to do Marine Corps. Like, there's got to be a reason behind it. But, like, for me, it was just like, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. So, I definitely believe there is a divine creator out. So that was definitely, I don't believe it anymore. I know it. Like, that was definitely a divine orchestration for sure. So, and I was a little bit of rebellious kid, so I needed a swift kick in the pants. So I'm like,
kids are rebellious?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, big time.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't see you being a problem at all.
Going having parties and stuff when you're not supposed to, and drinking when you're not supposed to, and all that stuff. But yeah, so I definitely needed some discipline in my life. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this, scare the crap out of my parents. I never saw them like it's, like scared or whatever, but like I knew they were. So they got great poker faces and stuff. So
probably a little bit of pride that goes in with that too,
Yeah.
And knowing you now for a long time, you don't ever I think you love the challenge, the face of a challenge. And I think Marine Corps, I can see that going backwards a little bit,
right? Yeah,
to your earlier days of wanting to join. And I love the no nonsense thing, because not everybody's meant for that. I mean, listen, our title is the uncommon breed, a Marine's perspective, because it is an uncommon breed. Not everybody can do it. If
not everyone wants to do it.
Not
either.
everyone wants to do it. Not
for everyone
can do it, right?
I got in the boot camp. I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. Right. But I'm like, I got
day 3
now. So yeah,
day 3. And so there's, and obviously all the branches give each other a hard time, and whatever. And we were going to give you your little gift today. There was going to be crayons in it, but I said don't do that because he scares me a little bit. But so I think that those challenges that you take on, and I love how you say that the approach was like, hey, this is no nonsense. It's going to be hard. It's going to suck, but you're going to become something out of it. And you're like, that's what I want to do. And you went right for it. Very similar to transitioning out. I'm sure you had some hard times, but you transferred out from being a rifleman to owning a barbecue a business that is thriving.
Mhm.
And you're also out there helping other veterans. So I mean, man, kudos to you, brother.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, kudos to you. What was it like? What was it like? Some of the camaraderie with your brothers out there. Can you name like a fun time where you guys were maybe getting in a little bit of trouble, having fun and laughing and scratching, or is that can you do that? Can you even talk about that? Or
I'll
does he want to talk about it?
Right.
I'll try to give a PG-13 example. So I'll paint this picture. I was stationed in Hawaii on Kaneohe Bay.
Oh, nice.
So between the years of me being like 19 to like 22.
Okay.
Yeah. A bunch of other young individuals, like that's pretty much party central. If you want to party, there you go, and all that stuff. That's perfect weather year round. So a lot of stuff going on that I could have been in trouble for. I got in trouble once with one of my good buddies. We got a ninja punch, which is an NJP, which I won't, you ain't a real Marine unless you got, 1 or 2 NJPs on your belt, because I like the I was having a conversation. Well, so I posted something on Facebook, and then one guy mentioned about uncommon valor, and I'm like, you get these people that are by the book and has to have everything in the box and all that stuff, and I'm like, that just kind of sets you up for failure, and you're not willing to take risks in life, and especially as a combat Marine, like our job is completely unpredictable. You got to think on the fly and all that stuff,
right?
And, you got to make decisions that are not make uncomfortable decisions and all that stuff, and sometimes you even need to be like, hey, after you, sir, like, no, that's BS. Like, I never did that, but just an example.
Sure.
You gotta go against the grain to do what's right. You just can't always follow the box, the uncommon valor thing. So like when it comes to somebody getting an NJP, I would rather trust them than someone with a good cookie, because and that, that's a good conduct medal, which you got a good conduct medal. That's great. Probably also means you never got caught at doing anything bad.
You just haven't been caught.
You just haven't
That's
been
it.
caught yet.
Haven't been caught.
But like, I prefer going to or working with people of a rebellious nature. I would say more of a professional, controlled rebellious nature, because they understand how life actually works. It's unpredictable. So you gotta, do things that are new, unorthodox, and that's how you win in life. You got to break the rules a little bit. And when I mean break the rules, I don't mean like cheat. I mean like, kind of break the standard of like what people think like life should be, and you got to be like this or else. It's like, no, you're not going to get anywhere in life.
Life is
no, and life is a lot of times choosing the lesser of two evils.
Oh yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, absolutely, and so not to veer off too off topic, but yeah, NJP. I trust people more with NJPs.
It makes sense.
So what was your best unit or team that you served with?
I only served with one unit, so that was 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, Lima Company, Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. I believe we are now deactivated.
Oh.
3rd Platoon, it was 3rd Platoon, 3rd Squad, so it was a lot of 3s in there. So, but yeah, great group of guys. Definitely knew their job, especially when I got out of School of Infantry. They were in, was it 29 Palms? So we called it CAX at that time. Now it's like Mojave Viper or some like really tacky name. And, if you're the Commandant of the Marine Corps and you hear that, I don't care. It's a tacky name.
Love it.
Because you can't do anything to me now.
That's right. Nanner.
Yeah, should have just stuck with CAX, Combined Arms Training, like simple,
Makes sense.
But so yeah, we get done with our SOI stuff, which is rifleman training, infantry training and stuff for like 2 months, and then as soon as you get to your unit, you're going to throw all the training that you learn out the window, because then you got to go with your platoons or units SOPs, standard operating procedures. So we walked through the door because there were these like metal Kwanzaa huts with like a dirt sanded floor, because the 29 Palms area is a big training facility. So they flew into Hawaii, or flew from Hawaii to there, train up and do all these ranges and all that stuff. So we met up with our unit. We walked through the door, and it was like, you're watching like an old 80s or 70s comedy where, or like Animal House, you walk through the bar door and then the record stops and everyone's looking at you like they want to, pounce on you and stuff. And we had all of our seniors looking at us like we're fresh meat. I was like, oh man, this is terrible. I heard all these stories about getting hazed and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, there was some hazing going on, but we were getting ready to go to combat. So they're like, all right, well, we need to train these guys up. We can't just mess with them the whole time, because within like a month and a half from that point, we were already in Afghanistan. So
right.
yeah, that was my unit that I was with.
Had to learn real quick, huh?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
so who was one of your leaders that you looked up to?
Oh boy.
And why?
Brain.
We'll start with God.
Was there one?
I would say, well, while you're in, you at least for me, it was like while I was in, I'm looking at our leaders and stuff. I'm like, man, I just don't want to make a mistake and all. So like, there really was no time for me to look up and I mean, yeah, I did unconsciously respect these people because they were there before me and stuff. But me being 19 and not really understanding how life works and stuff. So like, when I got out, I look back, I'm like, yeah, some of these guys are actually pretty good. I respected them because of all the hard work they were doing. But while I was in, I was like, man, this guy's being a dick and an asshole.
Right.
Hopefully you don't mind me cursing a little bit.
No.
Okay.
The internet, you're good.
This guy or whatever, this big jerk. But, again, me being naive at that time, you don't know what you don't know until you have that epiphany moment. But I would say pretty much everybody in the platoon I looked up to now because, like, we signed the line, signed the paper and went and did our thing. And almost everybody there, they weren't doing it for college or anything because the Marine Corps is too broke for benefits.
Right.
I wait till I get out, till I do the, post 9/11 GI Bill and all that other stuff or whatever. So we were there for, the purpose for doing good for our country at that time. Well, at least most people when they, do infantry and then Marine Corps and stuff, that is the main thing. Of course, you always have your private piles,
Right.
In there. So like from the TV show and also Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
And I've seen people that, resembled that person pretty closely to it while I was in boot camp. But luckily, there was no blanket parties or any type of stuff like in the movies. So, but yeah, there's always that one or like five in a platoon.
I think it goes from 1 to 5.
Yeah, 1 to 5. Yeah, 1 to 5. Any more than that, it's like I need to.
It's just abuse.
Like, yeah, it's abuse. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I made the wrong decision at
Right.
that point. So,
Right.
But even with those people too, like you're young, like your brain is mush and it's still developing. So it's like
Moldable.
Yeah, moldable, and sometimes not. Like sometimes you're just permanently lost in the sauce, like a couple of meatballs, like they would say in the Marine Corps, which I thought was like the funniest thing ever. But yeah, so
I'm Italian. So that
What?
yeah, that kind of works for me.
So what was the most surprising thing that you learned while you were in?
while I was in,
That was surprising. I did it. I'm in.
yeah. I mean, I got the Eagle Globe and Acorn boot camp, which is great. One of the more surprising things when I was in was, before I got in, they talked about like the brotherhood and all that stuff and like massive camaraderie and blah, 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 and all that, which, yes, does exist. However, with me, I take things to extremes in my mind and stuff. So I'm thinking like it's going to be like a movie. It's nothing like a movie whatsoever. It's more like, two brothers just beating on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, that's how they show their love. That's how the Marine Corps was. So, while I was in, I was like, this is stupid. Like, where's the camaraderie at? I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it was always there. I just didn't see it because, I never had any brothers or sisters.
It was
hidden.
hidden. That. Yeah, it was
It was
man.
And it looked different than you expected.
It looked different than what I expected. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. That totally makes sense now. So, but, even now that I'm out, I still keep in contact with some guys and stuff like that. So, and some of them haven't changed. They just gotten more successful, which is great because like, never lose the inner kid in you and child and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, the reason why I want to be as successful as I can is so I can still be a big kid. but responsibly,
Right.
responsibly, and not grow old and just be all like living up to somebody else's expectations.
Yeah,
and all that stuff,
totally.
too. So, I like playing guitar. I want to play rock shows and all that stuff. But again, realistically, like that may not be a 9-to-5 job. That's a passion of mine.
Mhm.
And, money provides the freedom to do what you want. But of course, you got to be financially responsible, which
Correct.
there were a lot of Marines that were not financially responsible. Getting a car with like 30 APR on it because the new Mustang came out. I'm like, I'm looking back now at some of these decisions these kids did when they were 19, 20. I'm like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
But
Accountability for your actions.
yeah, that was right out the window. I was like focused trying not to, get swallowed up by, all the chaotic environment and all that stuff. So financial responsibility wasn't on my radar at that time until now. But
And then plus you guys had like a full-time paycheck
Oh,
as
yeah.
opposed to maybe a part-time before you went in.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, not to going back on the original topic, they're like, yeah, that was the more surprising thing. Like my conception of camaraderie was a lot different than what real camaraderie is, because it's also real camaraderie is molded through tough times, and everybody's different. Tough times, going through stuff, and you look back, it's like, wow, we actually went through that. Yeah, we had our little tiffs together and all that stuff, but
it created a bond.
Yeah, you're not going to grow until you go through those sort of events and all that stuff too. So it's like, I can't just sit there and by osmosis trade a bond or whatever. There has to be some sort of process going on. Some people can actually, they've already been through stuff, and this person's already been through stuff, so that's already ready to go. But for two, kind of like that two brother fighting sort of thing.
Yep.
And then, once you grow older and you look back, it's like, yeah, that was a little immature, but, we had to go through it. And, you laugh at all the little goofy mistakes and all that stuff. And that is, to me, is a big part of like true camaraderie and brotherhood or all that. So
I agree with that. And I tell my friends, I'm like, listen, if I'm not giving you a hard time, then you worry.
Right.
If I'm not busting, because that just means I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And formulating a bond usually has to do with, yes, you fight like family, you love like family, you hate like family, you get tired of them, they cross the line, but you're still watching their six. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. That is 100% without it. So yeah, same thing with family and stuff too. Some family members are real chillax, and other ones are like really aggressive and stuff, and they don't even realize they're being aggressive. So then it's like I need to learn, a little more patience and acceptance and all that stuff too. So,
well, I got family members being crazy Italians, right?
Oh yeah, right.
I'm like, yep, he's an asshole, but he's my asshole.
Yeah.
They're part of my family, so you just learn to accept what it is, the worth and the value is of being part of that family.
Yeah, absolutely, and
it's awesome.
Well, and you do have that love and respect within the family anyway.
Correct.
Even if you don't agree with
Unconditional.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. He's got his hands around.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Wow, big story, by the way. Love it.
So what is your what tools did you collect for your toolbox for when you got out?
Physical or mental or
any or all or whatever?
Well, I have some tools that are fun when you're being mischievous and not caught. No,
oh, please tell.
Yeah, right. That'll be for the rated R version where you got to pay $4.99 subscription.
If you're looking for Simplified Barbecue, you can reach
There you
that.
go.
Yeah, reach from here. No, that a lot of, and that was one of the main reasons why I joined the Marine Corps, and unconsciously that was, my main driving force, because it was about the intangibles of the Marine Corps. So one, putting yourself through a challenge. So putting yourself through a challenge, you're going to have fear. So you're going to have fear because it is an unknown experience, and humans fear the unknown like crazy.
Right.
because it's unpredictable. They need to have control and all that so they can control the situation so they don't get hurt at the end of the day. But, you know, the only way you're going to make it in life is by doing things that are uncontrollable, unpredictable, and unknown. But, you know, with good size, you know,
Common sense.
common sense, and I would say a calculated risk. So you have to have some critical thinking there too. You just don't want to like
Strategic.
Yeah, you just want to be like, I'm going to do this and then see what happens. And it's like, well, if you jump off that building, you can't fly. You're going to splat. So I don't care how hard you think you can fly, you ain't going to. So there has to be some sort of reasoning involved. But yeah, you know, the will, the drive, the go-to, something scares you. If it makes you uncomfortable, just still do it anyway. You know, as one of the things that I hate doing if I am rude to somebody and I have to say I'm sorry, because I know guys are programmed to say not that. They're just programmed to be like nice and do all nice stuff and just say those two words that just could like really avoid you having to do all this other crap or whatever. But again, I get it, and that's where my love tolerance and all that stuff. So learn how to say I'm sorry to people, which I just love doing.
Yeah, don't we all?
Yeah, I'm like, ugh. Because in the Marine Corps, they're like, you don't say sorry for nothing, just don't do it again. And I'm like, well, that's not really going to work out in life. So, or one of the worst pieces of advice when you get out, like while you're in, it works. But one of the worst pieces of advice when you're out in the real world is expect the worst and hope for the best. I'm like, you are just confusing your subconscious mind at this point. And your subconscious mind basically will, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you feed in here, it's not a Hallmark card. What you feed in your brain literally starts going into your outer reality because you start acting and feeling a certain way. So then you're going to run into people and places that will reaffirm what is going on in here. So if you're in constant survival mode, that's why a lot of people drink, especially when they get out and they are unconscious of that type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, those tools right there. And then when I got out, you know, I became, you know, very faith based, but of my personal connection to it. It wasn't just somebody else's and stuff. Like, you know, it has to be something that is interpersonal to me. You know, I could read all different sorts of books or whatever, but like, I'm not going to just strictly follow that book. Like that story for that person was tailor-made for that person or that experience. But you know, I'm sure we could agree at the end of the day, like just try to be a good human being. That's all across the board. Be a good human being. You know, don't be an a-hole. Well, unless the person needs it. Don't be, you know, don't cheat people or be grimy like that and all that stuff. So, but yeah, when I got out, like I had to quit drinking. So it's almost been like 14 years now. And I thought that way of drinking was normal because you're in that environment for so long. You think that's how it is. So when I'm out with my friends and stuff and I bring a full bottle, I'm drinking it and then they're just having like a beer. It's like, what are you doing, you wuss? Like, it's like, and then they're looking at me like at first it's funny. And then after a while, it doesn't become funny anymore.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, I got to stop. But then after that, 12-step programs are great. You know, anyone struggling out there, do those, whether it's AA, NA, or NEA whatsoever, just do it. Because your brain probably needs it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like in the Marine Corps, you know, and I'm sure in the military, we're taught to keep pressing forward and all that stuff. And, you know, don't ask for help. I'm like, that's not a good mindset when you get out of the military, because guess what? I don't care how tough you are and how bad you think you are. You cannot do that by yourself.
That's right.
You have to have somebody involved. I don't care if you're a sergeant major. I don't care if you're a gunny. I don't care if you're the commandant of the Marine Corps. You're no better than anybody else because you're human. And if you think you could do it on your own, I'm like, all right, let's see how that works out for you. Because some form along the way, somebody has crossed paths with you to say something to keep you, you know, back in the game mentally, to keep going, you know, for your goal or whatever it is. And at that moment, you know, to me, those are divinely orchestrated moments because, you know, if people don't think that, higher power, whatever you want to call it, doesn't exist, like, well, it's always been with you. You just ain't been
weren't aware
trying
of
to
it.
weren't aware of it or connect with it. And even the people that are like, hardcore atheists or whatever, maybe that's what that person's role is in this lifetime is supposed to play, because we need to have characters in this game of life, or else how are we going to become aware of what we need to work on ourselves?
Correct.
So, but it's things like that to where keeping the drive going to eventually overcome your own fear. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's how your mind is. It's designed to hold you back until you unwire that stuff and then upgrade your systems in there. So, being positive, it's a practice. And you also, you don't just want to lie to yourself. You want to embody those emotions and practice it too. I get pretty big into a guy named Dr. Joe Dispenza, phenomenal story. And he has hundreds of actual real world testimonies of people doing very uncommon things that are, what people would be miraculous or miracles, like healing their conditions that are supposedly incurable through meditation and getting out of your own way and all that. But yeah, those, things like that, like meditation, has really helped me overcome a lot of myself. And that term right there means to basically become aware of yourself. It's not sitting there trying to stop all your thoughts. That's a bunch of nonsense. It's becoming aware of your thoughts and don't engage it.
Right. And controlling your thoughts and knowing like what this thought is and what it means and what are you going to do with it.
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, that thought, it's nonsense. So like, and it feels so seductive that you just want to grab onto it. Like, for me, when I'm driving, I'll use the fake arguments with imaginary people that they said something like a week ago. And I'm like winning the crap out of this argument, but they're not even there because it's all in my head. So
right.
And, you really start to feel like,
ooh, I thought I was the only one that did that.
Oh, no,
Mind games. No.
Everybody does. And it's like, all right, well.
You can't believe your thoughts.
Yeah. And so, one, I'm putting my energy toward that person. So, again, eventually some sort of situation's going to happen. Every time it does. And so I'm like, well, I kind of brought that on myself because I'm putting that energy there. So it's like, do not respond to that like you normally would, because that's just insanity. You got to, raise your level of awareness to a different outcome and respond to it differently by not reacting to it. And, when it comes to anger and depression and all that stuff, when people get out of the Marine Corps, they're trying to fix a level, they're trying to fix the problem at the same level of awareness that created the problem to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's insanity. It's like, well, I have my own way of doing it. Well, your own way of doing it clearly ain't working because, 10 years you're still drinking and doing all sorts of stupid stuff or whatever. But again, all in divine timing. Like, maybe they're not meant to see the light at that moment because they have to go through more stuff, which, to me, life is one big game. Like, not to take it too seriously, take it seriously, but not too seriously. And that sweet spot there. And that absolutely everything happens for a reason. Like, to me, that's not a Hallmark card, because I've had numerous coincidences and synchronicities that are just well beyond probability. And then I'm like, well, what is this? So then I'm looking up Carl Jung's work, and he's one of the greatest psychologists of all time. So like, if he's saying this is real, then it's definitely real. Even Einstein said it and all that stuff too, because I'm a very evidence-based person.
Yep.
So the big conclusion for me now is that getting comfortable and living in the unknown, you don't have to know everything. Like, people try to make everything all perfect and plan everything out, and then guess what? Nothing's going to go right. Your life whatsoever. And then they get all disappointed and beating themselves up and all that stuff because, like, I've done it. And I'm like, oh, well, how about this? That was not going to happen anyway, because I'm using my will, not, my spiritual will, because every time I do something to my own device, it falls apart. Maybe sometimes it works or whatever, but like, there's an easier way of doing stuff too. So don't live in the know, live in the unknown. That is the part about life. And when you're in the unknown, practice living in the present moment, because then nothing really can hurt.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, nothing's ever been accomplished when you're comfortable.
No, not at all.
So being uncomfortable is okay. So if you could be comfortable being uncomfortable, you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
In the financial world, listen, money doesn't buy happiness, but it sure runs the hell out of it.
Right, it does.
And you kind of need that a little bit. And you find Your spiritual pattern doesn't have to be by the testament of anybody else. What works for you works for you.
Right.
And listen, at the end game, you'll find out either way, right?
Yeah, you're going to find out regardless. And one of my favorite, not to get too biblical, but one of my favorite that I've been listening to now when I Uber, like when I drop a person off, I'm okay, this is passage here real quick, because it's good to have a solid foundation too.
Right.
The Lost Gospel of Thomas, big fan of that one. It was found, I believe, Egypt, I think Nag Hammadi Library and all that, but it's supposedly the direct words of Yeshua, Jesus Christ, and all that stuff. And it says a very different puts a very different picture of what he was like. But basically, what it says, what you put out there, you're going to get back. And one of my favorite quotes is, two brothers living in a house, if they merge together, move mountain move. So basically, put your thought and your feeling together without any hidden motive of a problem, and that problem will move. Whenever we have problems and stuff, like when I got outside, I got to force this and drive it. Mm-hmm. It never works out, and then I usually get upset with myself.
Right. And it's frustrating.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you listen to those thoughts.
And you listen to those thoughts instead of just, all right, relax, get out of your own way, get in a nice meditative state. And be like, hey, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what this, mystical power floating around is, but I give you my problem. And then it gets solved in the strangest of ways. And I'm like, okay, this definitely works. This isn't airy fairy stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, let's look at some more insane testimonials. That's why YouTube is great, because I'll look at near-death experiences. I'll look at those sorts of experiences, or people manifesting stuff, or healing their broken back that was completely impossible. And I'm like, there's definitely a trend here with this stuff, and even with near-death experiences and stuff. So that's where, when I keep doing research and keep practicing the stuff, because your strength, your brain is a muscle. And that was pretty much the only way that I was ever going to overcome, my alcoholism or PTSD or whatever problem that's, happening in my life. A lot of it is due to my thinking, and that I'm drawing this in there, because life is nothing more than a mirror. Whatever I feel inside, someone out there is going to push something that they may not even know that they're doing, to let me become aware of what I need to work on. I'm like, wow, that's awesome, actually.
Yeah.
And,
I love it.
Yeah, but then it's being aware of that and knowing to take that route, and not just falling into the same repeated patterns, negative patterns.
Right. Yeah. Which is, even if you become aware of this stuff, you have to overcome your emotional states, because your emotions are just as addictive as drugs.
Correct.
I mean, in a sense, they're not drugs, they're literally chemicals in a sense.
Right.
And
and they shouldn't drive us.
No,
no, but they're there for a reason.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You are meant to use them.
Right.
But now, how do you control, and when do you use them?
Right.
It's really the answer.
Right.
Right.
Going back to a pattern of mass depression or anything like that, that is comfortable for a lot of people, because they've lived in the dark for so long.
Right.
There was only a yang. There was never a yin.
And
it's hard to get out of that out of that familiar, comfortable state to the uncomfortable.
Intrusive thinking is it's a thing that everybody goes through.
It is.
And my daughter is OCD, OCPD.
I was diagnosed with OCD and at a young age, and my stuff, and I did the whole hand washing thing and think germs are going to kill people and all that stuff. I'm just getting way overboard with the stuff. And then my parents are like, you on drugs? I'm like, no, I got OCD.
Right.
And so after a while, it just transformed into what is called pure O, so just pure obsessive thoughts. So for the hand washing thing, that provides that form of relief for that person. For me, it's like, can I try to look at this in a million different ways and try to solve it? And then once you think you solved it, there's always going to be another angle. And that's what it's designed to do. And even taking that whole concept into life, it's like, all right, you don't have all the answers, and you don't know if it was like that or not or whatever, but what's the best way to overcome it? Do not engage it.
Right.
Do not engage it. It's like a screaming baby. The more you ignore it, it may get higher and higher for a period of time, but eventually it's going to wear itself out, and then that's it. And so I realized, if I do that with problems in my everyday life, especially when I got out of the Marine Corps, I wish I would have known this, but again, I wasn't supposed to know that nugget of wisdom at that time. I'm supposed to go through it. Can't help people if I don't go
That's
through
how we
stuff,
learn.
too, so. And that was the contract I signed before I came into this wonderful earth. So,
That's right.
That it's all about remembering. It's not about like, being super great or whatever like that, which is,
right. And
a
it's
part of it, but
learning. I mean, and sometimes, okay, when we fall is when we learn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and sometimes we hit rock bottom before we ask for help.
Yep.
Whether it be another person, spiritual, going to group help, whatever the case is, it's still reaching that point of, I need some help with where I'm at.
Well, I think the tools that you get also from the Marines are the basic chisel tools, right? As first of all, as men, we are trained to only have two feelings, and that's I'm fine or angry, right? Because they ask, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Right?
Sure.
You don't want to share that. Otherwise, it's a sign of weekness.
Yeah.
Or you're
that
angry,
fine is not the right fine.
Yeah. So those are what we're trained as men through time, through our families, through generations. And then you go into the military boot camp where it's even harder. And then you take those tools and now you're out and you're like, okay, I need to utilize the tools to be able to persevere with things that I'm not comfortable with and I'm not fine. I need help. I need all the things. I'm sorry's, right? All those tools. When you look in your metaphorical mirror, you're going, this is what I need to improve on me now in order to make it in this space, because you did this space and you rocked it. And now you have the strength. I mean, you're probably one of the strongest guys I know, mentally, physically.
Well,
because listen, and I say that because I look up to you, because I look at myself and go, man, I got a lot to work on. And I'm like, wow, this guy's been through hell and back and he's still challenging himself and he's still pushing forward. So I think that even going into, if it's the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, whatever that structure is that helps train you to be a person into a group of people to look out after each other and have this code, right? And then when you get out, sure, you get lost because it's not that anymore. But you learn to adapt to your space. Very similar as an infantry, you learn to adapt to your space in any kind of situation. They taught you how to do that. So man, that's fantastic that you have pushed forward. So let me ask you a quick question. So what brought you to the barbecue scene?
Well, I was doing duty one day in the Marine Corps where basically if you get assigned to it, at that time you had to stay up 24 hours and watch the barracks to make sure that nobody was goofing off or any type of thing or whatever. And then the next person would come by who's assigned to have barracks duty that day or whatever, watching all that stuff too. So I was lucky that day, so I got barracks duty, which I did not like at all because I had to stay there for 24 hours. It sucks. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was in the rec room. And the channel came on, like Travel Channel, of like barbecue. I'm like, oh, this looks good. And they were doing like dry rub ribs. I'm like, dry rub ribs? What the hell is that? Because I'm thinking like you got to boil the stuff and put sauce all over it and all that. Being from the Midwest, and I'm like, oh, so that's real barbecue, like not this crap that I'm getting up in Illinois that everybody says. So that's pretty much what sparked that. And then there was a movie called Planet Terror that also came out around that time frame with Rose McGowan. Robert Rodriguez directed it, where she had a machine gun on her leg and all that stuff.
Love that movie.
Very cheesy, over the top, but like it was meant to be like that.
I'm into that stuff.
Yeah, me too. So there was a character in that movie who, and the movie takes place in Texas. So there was a guy, his name was JT, who was Jeff Fahey, played a bunch of B movie characters and stuff, but he plays like this grouchy, eccentric barbecue dude obsessed with like making the best barbecue in Texas. So he's got like his little baseball cap on and slight beard and rough looking, and his whole place looks rough too and all that, and like his little catchphrases and how he talks. I'm like, well, that's cool. That's exactly what I want to do when I get older. So, so it was like those two things that cemented it together of why I wanted to do barbecue. And there's even a little like Easter egg on my menu with that stuff, because I like being cryptic, because I like to see if people are paying attention. I know most people don't pay attention, but like, you know, there's certain ones like I'll wear a certain pin from a movie. It's like, oh, I like that. It's like they're paying attention. So the JT was actually the guy's name in the movie, or JT. I call it JT's Dominator. So I was putting like mac and cheese on pork and all that stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'm really tired of making mac and cheese, so I'm just gonna call it, you know, the JT, where it's pulled pork and then Texas sausage on top with sauce and pickles. And that was the character's name in there. And the Dominator was actually his motorcycle in the movie that was donated to him by Jesse James, because he made a plate of barbecue so good he made him a chopper free of charge.
Nice.
Which was so over the top, and there's zombies and stuff and heads exploding. The El Rey was another sandwich that was one of the other characters in the name, or the name of one of the characters in the movie too. He's like the main star or whatever. So I like doing little cryptic things that either have horror movie related stuff or cult classic related stuff, but I can't go too over the top because it's food and I don't want to gross people out either.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. Well, and you know, too, let's just bring this up, Nico. You know, so check it out, folks. Semper Fi Barbecue. We're on the right spot. Yeah, Jay?
No, definitely no.
That's not you?
No, that is not me.
Wow.
That is an imposter.
Oh, well, let's take that.
Look up Facebook, the Semper Fi Chef.
It's Semper Fi Chef.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's somebody out there, one of your brothers.
Well, it looks like we're gonna have to have a duel.
It sounds like a battle that needs to happen on camera at this point. I dare you to challenge us.
Semper Fi barbecue.
I will judge.
Cook-off.
Sure.
That's fine. Just won't count my calories that day.
Gotcha. Just eat one time a day. That's pretty much what I do. So
yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I just have a Facebook page for now. So, and I just go by the Semper Fi Chef, because if I do barbecue, then I'm kind of stuck with doing barbecue.
I gotcha.
So,
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
So there was there's a couple of events, and that was the one that I did over at Bates Park in Woodstock on Saturday, which is very successful. I was a little nervous about doing a softball game tournament and all that stuff, but I'm like, no, they get really competitive and all that. And that's I was actually pretty proud of that picture. So yeah, that's the JT Dominator with the pulled pork and mac and cheese all the way on the top over there. But that was over at Crystal Lake Brewery, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of switched around the menu items a little bit to make it a little simpler, because it's just me doing it, because less is more sort of thing.
If anybody wants your services, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I mean, you get a hold of me through Facebook or my direct number. So with Facebook, it would be, can you pull that up one more time just to make sure that, because sometimes if I don't type in the or Semper Fi Chef, or it will not pull it properly.
Whatever that keyword
So
was.
Semper Fi Chef. Yep. So that's Semper Fi Chef.
Yep.
So Facebook / Semper Fi Chef. Great way to get a hold of him. Is go ahead, go to his Facebook page, check him out. And then he could probably get a hold of you through.
Yeah. So through the messenger, or, you know, my phone number, which is 224-245-4474 is also another way you could call, text, probably leave a text, which would be the best route, because I'm a little younger and I don't look at my emails or
Gotcha.
I mean, I do now. So I try to make sure that, you know, some of the older generations all about the emails or the voicemails and stuff. So
yeah,
they have all my avenues of approach covered. So, but yeah, those are the best ways. And even my Instagram as well too. You can just leave me a message on there, which my Instagram should be connected to my Facebook page.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you want to promo it, if you text him saying you saw him on Roger That Chronicles, give him 10% off?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Hit him up. Check him out. Some of the best barbecue. I'm sure there'll be a day where Jason will be bringing us barbecue.
Sure.
I hope there is a day.
There will be. There will be. So.
I would love to sample that on camera, actually.
Yeah. And I will also,
Yeah.
I have one of my, let me see when my next dates are, because I have a few coming up this month.
Yeah, absolutely. Throw it out there.
Let me pull up my events here.
We'll go ahead and share your page on our page too.
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Put your dates up on
Yeah.
on our event calendar.
So the 25th, I will be at Plank Road Tap in Elgin.
That's this Sunday.
Yep.
Oh, this Sunday, folks.
Yeah.
At around, let's see, what times did I put in here? 8 to 9 a.m. Well, that's not right. I think it is from 11 or 12 to 8 or somewhere on there. At least a 5-hour stretch. So I'll be there at 12.
He's going to show up at some time.
Yeah, I'll show up sometime. So
There'll be
When the
barbecue.
brisket's ready.
Follow your nose.
Yeah.
You know.
And then over in Woodstock at Trademark Events, where the old VFW used to be, I will be there on Saturday for the wrestling event that the owner Butch puts on over there. So I'll be out in the parking lot.
Oh, cool.
So I'm gonna have some barbecue over there.
Is that the Saturday, the 24th, or the following Saturday?
Next Saturday, the 31st.
Okay.
So, and I only been to like one pro wrestling thing, which was in Michigan. I had a axe of mine that had a brother that did that stuff, and the event was called Mandurance, and I'm like, wow, that is the cringiest crap I've ever heard. And then he had this one wrestler called Father Time up there, and he was blind, and I'm like, dude was like 50, almost 60 doing his thing, but I'm like, that's props, man. He's blind and he's wrestling at that age.
Yeah. Hey, kudos.
But it was very hillbilly like and stuff, and
Yep.
I'm glad I'm now exes with her. So, but yeah, I'm sure this wrestling event will be a lot better. So
That's fantastic.
yeah, I got stories.
Awesome.
That's
Thanks for coming on the
awesome.
show today.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, not a problem. I mean, I know it was a little more faith-based and all that stuff, which I like talking more about solutions than
Right,
you know,
right.
trauma bonding, which I can't do that anymore. So
Nobody wants to be there anyway, right?
yes, right.
We want to
Absolutely.
know how to get out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. It was, and we met over at the pancake breakfast thing over in Woodstock.
Yeah.
So delicious pancakes,
Yeah.
and had a good conversation too, which I
That was a Moose Lodge.
yes,
They were
yes,
doing
the
an
Moose Lodge.
event.
Yep. One of our Marine Corps League members, Andy Ferrara, who
Yeah.
does insurance, was hosting. I'm like, as a chef, I was like, wow, these pancakes are great. He's like, yeah, it was like this pancake mix. I'm like, keep it up, man, because this stuff was good.
Yeah. Dude, listen, food is food. Goes right to your heart.
Yep.
Yeah. And we've got a parting gift for you
Oh, yeah,
from
absolutely.
a few different vendors,
Okay.
sponsors
All
for
right.
you. So
Sure.
we'll have those listed on
Sure.
the description.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. One last question. What advice would you give anybody just getting out of the service and trying to change back into the civvies?
One, get your disability benefits, get that going.
Mhm.
Have some form of like mental therapy, which is a must. Because they're all going to say, I don't need it. I'm like, yeah, you do. You're just numb still. Just give it time for all that stuff to start coming to head. So, you know, get connected in with your VFW or American Legion, Marine Corps League or whatever. But with discretion of those organizations, try not to go there just drink and trauma bond, because some people like doing that stuff. And I'm just very blessed with my organization, the Marine Corps League. But they drink, but pretty responsible. Surprisingly, I'm kind of shocked.
With a bunch of Marines,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But yeah, join an organization, support groups, all that stuff. You know, I don't want to hear a veteran saying, oh, there's no help out there. That is a bunch of baloney.
Yep.
There are numerous amounts of help out there
Yeah.
now, and tons of resources. So, you know, at this point, it's almost kind of a choice not to get help. But you know, again, too, it's hard getting caught up in your own head too, but just do it. All right. So that's my advice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great advice,
Yeah.
Jason. Thanks for being a guest today. Hopefully we can see you come back here in the future
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. So I really appreciate you guys having me on here. So
And Chris,
Thanks.
awesome. Always out there doing great things. Chris, real quick, if somebody needs to get a hold of you guys over at New Life, what's the best way to do it?
Text is usually best, but I will say the wrong number. So I'll just say the website, newlife-mo.org.
So that's
perfect.
newlife-mo.org. So I like how you had to guess and read it in your head when we had it on the screen for you. That's great. Awesome, guys. Hey, listen, until next time, stay safe. Roger that.